Hello. This is a food update. We have more salad if you need salad, more potatoes, which are to die for, and some more chicken. But then they also brought out, in case you didn't get enough dessert, these skillet chocolate chip cookies with ice cream on top. And they're cutting those up because you can only get a sliver. So go for it.
This is the unofficial gavel. We're not gaveling in. Pardon? Oh, it's time for the fun. Father Jim Haney is here somewhere. Getting to... I'm calling you up. Jim and crew. Will this broadcast on this screen? Okay.
Awesome.
You need everybody to stand?
We'll get them standing up in a second here.
Okay.
So this is what the dais feels like.
The dais, here we are. We've arrived. I haven't been on the dais this year.
You're inside the root screen.
The Holy of Holies here. No, we got it.
All right.
Well, His Grace, the Lord High Bishop of Lubbock, Amarillo, Abilene, Odessa, Midland, St. Angelo, the surrounding regions, and also much cattle, asked us, he asked if we could commission a hymn in honor of the Reverend Canon J. Michael Ehmer. And I thought, wow, we need to get the most pious and talented group of clergy that we have in this diocese. But they weren't available, so here we are. This is what you got. So let's see if we can make this work here. So we have commissioned this hymn. Which button do I push, guys? All right, we'll give you a second here. Dun, dun, Johnny Carson. Dun, 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 dun. All right.
We don't.
So.
We don't know who Johnny Carson is.
Yeah, some of you younger Gen Xers won't know Johnny Carson, but Renee and I actually saw Johnny Carson a year before he retired, so that was awesome. David Byrne of the Talking Heads, Bob Newhart, and Peter Jennings of ABC News.
Still alive.
Well, you know, we're still alive, so yes. All right, so all things tightly organized, but we thought instead of just us doing a quartet for you, we'd have the entire congregation sing in honor of Mike Ehmer. Mike, you stay seated, but the rest of the room, if you would please stand. Let's get our notes here. Bum, bum. And let's try to keep it a nice tempo here. So, all right, here we go. Maybe here we go. All things tightly organized, all details great and small. A canon wise and wonderful, Mike Ehmer ran it all. Each email that he'd open, each telephone that'd ring, he made them all important. He handled everything. All things tightly organized, all details great and small. A canon wise and wonderful, Mike Ehmer ran it all. Canonical amendments, resolving bad church spats, ordinations and the budget, he wore a lot of hats. All things tightly organized, all details great and small. A canon wise and wonderful, Mike Ehmer ran it all. He did more than we noticed. We miss him since he's gone. Without his careful leadership, we're left to carry on. All things tightly organized, all details great and small. A canon wise and wonderful, Mike Ehmer ran it all. The purple-shirted bishop is suffering a loss. But fear not Northwest Texas, 'cause Elizabeth's the boss. All things tightly organized, all details great and small. A canon wise and wonderful, Mike Ehmer ran it all.
Well, I think Jim had help. Jim may have written the whole thing. I don't know.
I don't think you want to disclose it, right? I don't think it's safe to tell.
The only group project I've ever enjoyed participating
All right. Gay Clark Jennings.
That is a hard act to follow. But I detect a theme. So Mike and I first met when he accepted a position working with Credo Institute. And I quickly figured out that Mike is loyal, dedicated, humble, smart. I swear, it's written down, highly organized. Loves Sue Ann and his family. And he's a great colleague. Did I say organized? So organized. He loves things to run well. You already know that. Budgets are balanced. The numbers are correct. Programs are evaluated, and continuous improvement is ever present. This is a guy who cares deeply about metrics, right? Those quantifiable, I had to look up the definition, truthfully, because I care about metrics, but not like Mike. Those quantifiable measures that track and evaluate performance, assess progress towards goals, identify areas for improvement, make informed decisions, and provide transparency. It's why I appointed him to the job I wanted least in the entire world, which was chair of the Episcopal Church's Joint Standing Committee on Program and Budget. He can actually make church finances understandable and inspire people to commitment and action. And actually, once he became the chair, there was no debate on the floor of General Convention because Mike had already explained it all, and it made sense. Now, we all know people who like things to run well and are structurally sound. They're usually mechanics or engineers or architects. And then there's Mike. Along with those metrics, what makes Mike different is that he has the heart of a servant and a pastor. Now, I know that from personal experience. When our beloved daughter died 14 years ago, Mike was there. He came to Ohio. But not only was Mike there, he remembered every year. I heard from Mike every year right around that time. Every year. People drop away. You know what happens when you lose somebody you love. Not Mike. Mike was always there. Mike cares about metrics because he cares about God. He cares deeply about the people of God. And he loves this diocese, and he loves his bishop, where he has served so faithfully and well, because this is home. I don't say this about too many people, but the effect of his leadership has been a stronger commitment to mission, a strengthened and empowered laity and clergy working together for the cause of Christ, and a deeper love of Jesus. So, I mean, what could be better than that? So, Mike, I have always looked up to you. You may not know that, but I have always looked up to you and admired you, and I can't wait to see how this new chapter plays out, although I think the bishop and I figured out something already and pointed at you for something. But as some of us of a certain age used to say when we were younger, have a blast.
That was even better than your sermon. So, every year we have resolutions. And Mike won't be at the business meeting tomorrow, so we'll have some resolutions tonight that we will then enter into the minutes tomorrow. And at this time, I call upon the resolution committee. I don't know where they're going with this, but I do know that Mike loves puns. And he's really good at puns. And I think they're going to get even for all the times I've groaned. Anyway, take it away.
All right, I'm going to give you some background information on Mike. Mike Ehmer was born at an early age in a typical Florida town near the city of Miami. His arrival on the planet was probably upstaged by some sort of overly ambitious thunderstorm, but nonetheless, Mike is one of the Sunshine State's native sons. And if you have spent any time on the internet in the past few years, you know what that makes him. Mike is Florida man. We've all seen the headlines and read the stories about how Florida man takes a joyride in a stolen ambulance, ends up at the sheriff's office. Or Florida man tries to rob a store wearing a transparent bag on his head. Mike is not the Florida man caught on the security camera licking a doorknob for 3 hours. He is not the Florida man who claimed after arrest that he only drank at stoplights and not while driving. Indeed, Mike tried to escape his future as an alum of Floridian headlines by leaving his state of origin as quickly as possible. However, you can take the boy out of Florida, but you cannot take the Florida out of the man. Mike left the state and went to Tennessee as soon as he could, seeking higher education. But since his girlfriend remained loyal to their homeland and was attending Florida State University, Mike soon returned home and enrolled in the University of Florida. He was successful with the girlfriend, as they've been married for, years and years now. Mike was thrilled to be back on his home turf, committed to the girlfriend and to the role of a Florida Gator. Florida man embraces Gator for love. In addition to being a romantic, Mike was a music man at heart, and that starts with H, and that rhymes with, well, H rhymes with nothing. But Mike was always in the marching band throughout school. But when he returned to Florida, he joined a real band. And this group of singing hippies chose for themselves the name of Styrofoam Soul. Mike loved being a band member, and he also enrolled in college ROTC at the same time. Hippie music and ROTC aren't really all that compatible. Florida man Fells is hippie, only band member with short haircut. As I mentioned, Sue Ann took pity on Mike, and they were married. They were blessed with twin sons, which in a flurry of unoriginal thinking, they named Jonathan and David. Mike wasn't yet a preacher, but you could tell he was starting to think like one. How many preachers' kids are here tonight whose parents saddled them with biblical names? Anybody? Right? I see you. Florida man names kids after biblical buddies, David and Jonathan. Thankful they were boys. Girls would have been called Gomer and Herodias. Mike comes by it honestly, I suppose. His mother was an Episcopal deacon, and evidently she named him after the daughter of the Hebrew king Saul. Despite the twists and turns life has taken for Mike, he has survived against the odds to reach a ripe old retirement age. And that is somewhat miraculous, as Florida man is not known for their longevity, nor their sound decision-making. But Mike made it. And now he takes his leave from the most important facet of his ministry, the role that has had perhaps not the greatest impact on my life nor the lives of others, but the role for which we will most fondly remember him, the role of diocesan beer sommelier. Mike honed his malty skills in Europe, honing his beer snobbery to a keen, razor-like edge. His studies allowed him to recognize and expound on such expert, niche-level, beery characteristics as wetness and flavor and bubbliness. I have not yet experienced a presbyter's conference or really any diocesan gathering without Mike's favorite new beer choices on hand. I can't even envision what that would look like. How can we be expected to conduct the Lord's work without the Lord's beer? Florida man retires from post as beer sommelier, clergy in chaos. Pray for us, St. Arnold, now and in the hour of our need.
Well, you can take the resolution out of the convention, but you can't take the convention out of the resolution, or the other way around. Whereas the Reverend Mike Ehmer is an introverted veteran punter, often displaying pain when, after aiming a witticism at an unsuspected target, he must hold fire. Whereas Mike manned an extraordinary position under the Right Reverend Wallace Ole, only to reload after his time at Credo to serve as cannoneer under the Right Reverend Scott Mayer. Whereas as canon, Mike was bombarded with tasks from which a man of a lesser caliber would have recoiled. Whereas these tasks included holding down the fort in the Diocese of Northwest Texas, while Bishop Scott fought the good fight in the former Diocese of Fort Worth. Whereas Mike did not hide in a shell and instead burst forth to attack these challenges, whether that meant limbering up to travel the diocese or answering batteries of questions. Whereas Mike was everywhere, inspiring the poet to laud Mike's work with our clergy and laity. Cannon to the right of them, cannon to the left of them, cannon in front of them, volleyed in thunder. Whereas volleyed in thunder may be a bit off target, but our poet waxing about Mike's politeness and respect to us, Mike has a pretty long fuse, would not have had the same bang, and Episcopalians are not one to muzzle a creative license. Whereas knowing of Mike's early rock band career and of his being a navigator for the B-52s, we excitedly thought he was a band's bus driver, DJ, Q, Rock Lobster, only to learn that all Mike did was to help the world, be saved from Armageddon. DJ, scratch that. Q, off we go into the wild blue yonder. Whereas this military training helped cast an iron chief of staff for our bishops, one in whom canons to the ordinary from other dioceses, Top Guns in their own right, lob questions, seeking answers and receiving advice. Whereas we have plenty of ammunition on Mike, but perhaps I should save my powder, lest this cannon be bored, lest I be breached and breach his trust, lest I spark my own discharge. Mike may be retired, but I don't think I'm out of his range yet. Therefore, if we were in session, it would have been resolved by this 66th annual Diocesan Convention of the Episcopal Diocese of Northwest Texas that Mike Ehmer is irreplaceable. Literally, they are not replacing him. And that while he is now retired, this cannon remains a big shot and is always one of us.
I think he got even.
Well, that was the canon about the canon. This is a resolution regarding the Constitution of Mike Ehmer. And it's long and rambling. You may hear a little bit of repeat because we were working on the same notes because we were talking about the same guy. So here we go. Whereas it has come a time to recognize Mike's retirement and to note his absence from that table at the front of the room, it is not lost on us that there are things in our orders of business and materials that cannot help but remind us of Mike and his ways. And whereas one of the items on the convention site for our use and edification was a fun and cleanly edited document entitled Parliamentary Procedures at a Glance. I do not think anything could say Mike Ehmer to us more neatly than that. And there was a second page of it. It was called Parliamentary Procedures at a Glance, Continued. And whereas this resolution will hardly take the form and or brevity of a real resolution, It shall instead employ the at-a-glance prompts of parliamentary procedure that we have all come to love and follow unfailingly. Thus, a point of information. Let us remember that Mike has spent the last 12 years as canon to the ordinary, and in previous years in the diocese was missioner priest for St. John's Lamesa, Good Shepherd Brownfield, and St. Luke's Levelland, as well as serving as canon to Bishop Wallace Ole. But I move we table the discussion of those work details and explore a bit of Mike's early life. He was born, as we have heard, in Miami, Florida. He grew up attached to the Episcopal Church. Mike's mother, Virgil Lee, was deacon in the Episcopal Church, ordained, I believe, sometime in the 1970s, by the way, which makes her an icon of her own right. And Mike may object to the consideration of the question about when he started to feel drawn to the priesthood. We will consider it because it's been rumored that his mother once, while he was a child, dressed him up as a priest. She knew all along, and I'm hoping it was for Halloween. An action that just might have led Michael himself to move that further consideration of the issue of priesthood be taken from the table until he was good and ready to reconsider. Further, after high school, Mike went off to Clarksville, Tennessee, to study at Austin Peay State University. That's P-E-A-Y, P. And this is totally a footnote, but here's who Austin Peay is. See if this sounds logical. He was a governor of Tennessee, one of the favorites. Here's what he did. He overhauled the tax code. He improved higher education. He expanded the state highway system. He converted a $3 million state debt into a budget surplus. He created the first Tennessee state parks and assured the establishment of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. A man after your own right? He also outlawed the teaching of evolution, which led to the Scopes monkey trial, but anyway. Mike went off to Clarksville, Tennessee to study at the Austin Peay State University, where he regularly took to the marching field, sometimes for drills and discipline with his ROTC unit, and sometimes to join the beat of the school's band as he played his trombone. He took that trombone to the stage with the school's jazz band, perhaps hoping to gain a cool nickname like Bones or Pizzazz Ehmer, but instead found that ROTC buzz cut worn by him earned him the label along with his jazz combo of styrofoam soul. And so I can only object to the consideration that our early impression of Mike be that of the soulful jazz band beatnik, and remember that he and the school band regularly joined the student body of Austin Peay State University and shouted out their school spirit and support with the heartfelt cheer, "Let's go, P!" I claim a point of privilege here to say that in the late 90s, I, Mary Glover, was a student with Mike and Sue Ann at one of the earliest, maybe even the first EFM classes at Heavenly Rest. And from that group alone, 3 of us went away to seminary in Austin. Mike and Bill Livingston a year ahead of me, but soon enough that they both welcomed me when I joined them there in my new studies and continued as friends, fellow students, and future priests in the church. But now I call for a division of the house, but by no means for any disagreement, to reflect on the fact that while Sue Ann, who Mike knew from high school, stayed in Florida and studied at Florida State University, Mike did soon return to his home state, but alas, to be a Florida Gator. So while we can rejoice that Sue Ann and Mike can each claim an alma mater in Florida, They must cheer on different teams and mascots. Sorry. And now I move we suspend the rules of discussing strictly church and diocesan stuff and reflect briefly on what makes Mike tick. For those familiar with such, Mike dials into the Myers-Briggs personality inventory as a rare but not surprising ENTJ. That's extrovert, intuitive, thinking, judging. It's that J that separates him from a lot of us in this room. This sets him up as a working collaborative type that's variously described as, quote, strategic, logical, efficient, outgoing, an effective organizer of people and long-range plans, or, as a more pointedly defined source said, the field marshal. And we're grateful that this type is compatible with that of his wife, Sue Ann, who claims to have tested and found out that she was an LMNOP. Correct? I move that we refer further discussion on those matters to a committee to be named and numbered later. Whereas in Mike's letter notifying the diocese of his retirement, he made a few observations and claims that we may need to submit for consideration and voice vote. I move the question thus. First, he said, I feel I've made a positive difference for Bishop Mayer, the Diocese of Northwest Texas, and the Episcopal Church. I appeal to the chair's decision about whether we can affirm that that is true. What say you, wise chair?
All in favor?
Okay. I shall record a resounding yes. Further, Mike has said that at the time as doing that work, I have been having as much fun as possible. I thus move the question to Mike himself. Is that truly true? Absolutely. Again, I shall note a resounding yes. And perhaps that should require a second. What say you, Sue Ann? Much fun, was it? Sure. I shall record a, let me get rid of resounding there. Yes. And so now I would move that we postpone the matter of Mike's retirement. Oh, but it's already done. Therefore, let us suspend all further rules and consider how we wish to offer our thanks, our appreciation, our affection, and simply say that we, the people of the Diocese of Northwest Texas, in order to form a more perfect thank you and congratulations to you, Mike and Sue Ann, and to establish a memory that you can hold dear, do ordain and establish that we are grateful, that we love you, and that we just have to shout and clap about it for a bit.
Hope that was okay. I think we stripped most of the dignity off of it. It's a wonder he's got clothes on, all the dignities are stripped off.
Let's go, Pete.
So I met Mike and Sue Ann and their twin sons, Jonathan and David. I have a Daniel. 30 years ago, after My family and I moved from Texarkana to Abilene so I could serve Church of the Heavenly Rest. The Ehmers lived in Abilene because Mike was stationed at Dyess Air Force Base on the western edge of town, and it was the beginning of a 30-year friendship that will extend until one of us goes to glory, as we say, or I do believe beyond that. The Ehmers had lived all over the country. Mike and Sue Ann were from, as you already know now by now, South Florida. Were friends in high school. In college, Mike was a Florida Gator. Sue Ann, Florida State Seminole. ... They got married. Then through the Air Force lived in California, South Dakota, New York, Maine, Germany, Nebraska, and Texas. Mike was a lifelong Episcopalian. Mother was a deacon. They plugged into congregations wherever they went and served often on the vestry. One morning after celebrating the Holy Eucharist at 6 a.m. for the Brotherhood of St. Andrew, and believe it or not, I did do that regularly, I wondered aloud to Mike if he might be called to ordain ministry, and it turns out that I was nowhere near the first person to ask that. But the timing was right, and Mike was approaching 20 years in the Air Force, and then at a stewardship conference up at Quarterman Conference Center, Sam Hulsey asked him the same thing. So after the usual discernment process, the Ehmers went off to seminary in Austin. We stayed in touch, of course, and then Mike was ordained. Mike and Sue Ann moved, as you just heard, to Brownfield, where Mike served our congregations in Brownfield, Lamesa, and Levelland. And after a few years, Wallace O. called Mike to serve as his canon to the ordinary. Somewhere along the way, Mike developed a passion for vocation and helping people discover their gifts, helping others discern their call in ministry, because all baptized people are called. He became a gifted transition minister, dedicated to helping clergy and congregations find their match. One year, Heavenly Rest was seeking a new rector, and the children's choir director borrowed from Fiddler on the Roof and started singing, Mike Ehmer, make me a match, find me a match, catch me a catch. Mike Ehmer, look through your book and make me a perfect match. And that is a guaranteed earworm. Then after 4 years, Mike was called to serve at Credo Institute along with Gay, where Mike added to his already large toolkit. But back in Lubbock one day, our diocesan treasurer, Carol Holly, walked into my office in Lubbock and told me I needed a canon to the ordinary, and he had one in mind, and he would find the money. To my delight and to the delight of the diocese, the Ehmers returned to Lubbock. I'm not going to list everything that could be on his resume after serving for over a decade, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention his service to the wider church. Chair of Program, Budget, and Finance for the Episcopal Church is a demanding job that requires expertise and dedication and patience, and Mike represented this diocese with distinction in that role. So the Bishop of the Rio Grande, the diocese to the west of us, is Michael Hunn. And you may remember that he spoke to this convention a few years ago. At any rate, he was once the canon to the presiding Bishop Michael Curry. And before that, he was Bishop Curry's canon in North Carolina. And at Michael Curry's retirement party with the bishops at General Convention, Michael Hunn told a story. And I'm just beginning to think all the great people are named Michael. Evidently, Canon Hunn spent a lot of time at Bishop Curry's home and got to know Sharon Curry well. And often they would meet for coffee before heading out to who knows where. And one day Sharon said, "Y'all are nothing but a couple of firehouse dogs." She says the alarm bell rings, the firefighters slide down the pole, and y'all hop on the truck, the wind in your face, ears flapping, tongues hanging out, headed to put out a fire. And every bishop and canon can relate to that story. Maybe Mike and I have been at times a couple of firehouse dogs, and I will tell you it has been a great ride, at times exhilarating, and most of the time in this diocese it was not a fire. I know I speak for the whole diocese and the wider church when I say that Mike is the classic servant leader who embodies those principles of servant leadership, trusted friend, characterized by compassion, empathy, and hospitality. He's all in seeking a just world. And for other canons to the ordinary around the church, he has been the go-to person for guidance. Just as importantly, and what some of you may not know, but you know now, he played in a rock and roll band in the 70s. He is an expert on beer, and he loves Thai food, and he gets it hot. And he always gets extra napkins to mop his forehead from the sweat. And he even cleans everything he recycles. And he has a great sense of humor that includes British comedies and puns. They say that puns are a sign of intelligence, which makes me dumb as a brick. And I do think it's those who tell puns that believe it is a sign of intelligence. And Mike could fill a book with the puns that he did not tell. I cannot imagine the energy and the engagement of his superego to hold in check the puns running through his mind. And tonight we celebrate Mike, and we celebrate that Mike and Sue Ann are not moving away. They are living in Lubbock, Texas. Thank you, Mike. I love you. Come on up. And Elizabeth, staff, come on up.
Yeah. Well, we cannot tell you how much we love this man. I mean, I was so scared to do this convention. This was the first one in 10 years that I didn't have him telling me what to do or saying, no, that's not right. But we did it. Thank you for all your guidance. And we just got a couple little things, nothing much. We just wanted to say thank you. So there's a couple of gifts, but the most important one, in fact, would you go back around and open or get Julia? Yeah. We have a person in our diocese who is incredibly talented, and she made a picture that is the most exquisite depiction of Mike Ehmer's life. And we are so proud to present it to you, and we hope that it goes in a very special place in your house. And I know it's kind of hard to see. Can we zoom in on it by chance?
People are in the way, I think.
Oh, that's right. Y'all are supposed to move. I forgot. Yeah.
Judy do that?
Your wife did that. Your wife did that for you. This depicts all of Mike's life, his career in the military. We've got all of his kids, his grandkids. We've got him reading a story to his kids when they were little, and he's falling asleep, and they're just sitting there laughing. At Wallace Ole, the bishop, Anna and me, and it is so fantastic. And I want you to know that the woman that did this freehand with a pen and ink. And so we're going to leave it up here for y'all to look at and enjoy. And I can't tell you how excited we are to give that to him. And then we just got a couple other little gifts, so I'm going to let Anna. Yeah. Because, you know, it's kind of hard to buy something for somebody like Mike. It's like, I know. Sue Ann goes, yeah, I know. So go ahead, you can open. They do like to entertain. I'm just going to talk while you're opening. And they do like wine. Oh, just a little. And Chardonnay for me when I come over, but for the bishop, it's other things. And we found this at a little shop in Fredericksburg, and I don't know, it just sounded like, or it looked like, something that Mike and Sue Ann would enjoy. So, it's probably taped, I'm sorry. No, open it, you gotta show them. Roger, give me that knife. Rogelio.
I'm not a real Texan.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
No knife.
No knife. Both of my sons carry them.
And I know they've lived all around the world, but these are from, I think, Venice, and they're painted wine glasses. So every time that they entertain, they can think about us.
Yes, this is great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
We actually were looking to get a set of wine glasses.
Okay, well, I'm glad, you
read
know.
our minds.
I did. Leanne, go ahead and open the next one. Open the next one. And they also host often a group from our church called the Movie Theology. And it's like people bring their own little snacks. They've already watched the movie, and they sit around and talk. But they sometimes need to have something to put their snacks on. So. And Roger wrapped those, and he loves tape. And I pray it's not that. He just put it in the Target box. Not Target in the store, Target in the chute. More tape, Roger. You know what? We should have bought him a knife. Dang it. Dude, how many pieces of tape did you use? He wanted to put like something like a gun on top of it, like it was a target.
Let's hope he's not good enough.
More tape.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah. Did y'all have any place you needed to be anytime soon? This is a handmade charcuterie board out of a piece of wood from Texas. inlaid with turquoise. And we hope that every time they entertain, that they think of us and how much we love both of you. You're welcome. Oh, God, is there a price tag? Right. It is a one-of-a-kind piece, so.
Yes, that's what I meant. It's got a number on it. It's number 4 from 2023,
So, we love you. I can't tell you how much I admire you and what you've taught me, and I will never forget it. And you're one of my best friends, and I don't want to cry. So.
So any question about Mike not being a Texan because he doesn't have a knife, I just got to say something. This is a guy that was chair of program, budget, and finance, who eliminated program, budget, and finance in order to eliminate bureaucracy. That's a Texan. You want to say anything, Mike?
Sure, a little bit. I typically have notes or something in front of me, and I've been thinking. What's that? Oh, yeah, my list, which I've actually progressed and put in my wallet now. But since my cataract surgery, I don't need glasses to see distance, so I now put my glasses in here, which I kept losing the little list that was in here, so now the list is in my wallet. But she used to kid me, and obviously still does, about my list, because I would just write little notes, the memory goes. But I was going to write something, but I could not think of anything. I mean, I kept trying to think, what am I going to say? And I had no idea, so didn't write anything. I would like to say, though, Bishop Mayor's remarks about the Thai food and the sweating, because there's no hair up here anymore. So I wanted to let you in on a secret that even Sue-Ann doesn't know. One of the reasons that I decided to retire was a little thing I saw on social media that indicated that if you retire, it will actually help your hair regrow. I'm sorry to say that it was yet another conspiracy theory, because it hasn't worked. Yet. I do wish to say a thank you to everybody. When Mary was up here, it reminded me that throughout my time at Credo and in the 12 years I've been back, I have had framed the resolution that I had when I left the last time. And actually, it was also here in Abilene. It was the last diocesan convention that I was at, and she had done that, and I still have it. So it was nice to have that again. It was nice to have Gay here. When I came back to the diocese, Bishop Mayer had said, after a little bit, he said, "You brought a whole lot more tools back to the diocese than you left with." And he's absolutely right, thanks to people like Gay. I got to see the bigger church and the wider church, but my heart was always here. This is the work that I do best. This is what feeds me, and I hope feeds you all as well. It's been a pleasure to work with every one of you. I'd like to thank especially my wife, who has put up with 50 years, almost 50 years of marriage and 50 years of working, 21 in the Air Force, and I retired from the Air Force here in Abilene as well. And the only two people in the room other than me who was at that was my wife and Bishop Mayer, who came to that ceremony as well. I'm just looking at this. Is this the one that Debbie made? This is really nice. She's amazing. Should come by and see the altar that she did, the little altar at St. Stephen's. It is truly amazing. But thank you, Sue Ann, for putting up with me for those many years and continuing. Thank you to my Halsey Center mates. I said in my letter that it was a privilege to come to work every day, and I meant that. It really was. Thank you. And to Carol Holly, where's Carol? There he is. Thank you. Thank you for the privilege of working with you when I was here before. Bishop Ohl, when he called me to be his canon to the ordinary, asked if I could help clean up the administration. So that's what I set out to do with Carol. And I think we did that. I was really pleased when I came back to the diocese that the budget format was basically the same thing that we had done together. And so I was honored by that fact. And it's been an honor to work with Carol all this time. And then for him to actually go to the bishop, as he said, and say, you need to bring Mike Ehmer back here. So it was, I was trying to get a job as a rector because my position was cut as Credo was transitioning. And I was 59 years old, coming up on 60. I hadn't had any parish experience in a long time. And I knew as a former deployment officer, now transition minister, that was not sellable. That was not marketable. All the transition ministers I knew couldn't wait to put me in the search processes, but the search committees had no interest in me. And I understand that for that reason. But it was also good because where I really fit is at the diocesan level working for a bishop. I mean, those are my talents, and I thank you, Bishop Mayer, for allowing me to do that and being my friend. Thank you all. I really appreciate this honor, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you. Bishop asked if I would give a blessing. May the peace of God, which passes all understanding, keep our hearts and minds in the knowledge and love of you. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be with you this day and always. Amen. Amen. The bar is open, I believe, and I think they do sell beer, so. Thanks. Hard to believe. I almost kept it together. Miss Judy Johnson did that.
You got to go look at it.
I will.